I don't know why it happened that night. Maybe it was fate screwing with me, but everything hit like a train crash. Samantha, my wife, was never the subtle type, but I never expected her to go full throttle into madness like she did. It was supposed to be a quiet Friday night. We had plans, nothing fancy. A movie, maybe some takeout, just the two of us. But right before we were about to settle in, she came downstairs in this tight red dress, looking like she was ready to walk the runway, not chill in front of the TV. I stared at her, confused. "Where are you going?" I asked, half joking, thinking she was just messing with me. She grabbed her purse and without a pause, answered, "Out, with the girls." I knew she hadn't made plans earlier. She'd spent the day complaining about being tired from work, but now she was heading out in heels, freshly done makeup, hair that had taken an hour to fix. You don't do that when you're exhausted, right? Something wasn't adding up. "Out," I repeated, trying to sound casual. "You didn't mention that earlier." She rolled her eyes. "I don't have to tell you everything, do I? I'm just going to the club for a drink. It's not a big deal." My stomach tightened. Samantha and we'd had a few rocky patches recently. Small stuff, mostly arguments about work stress, me spending too much time at the gym, her phone always buzzing. But something about the way she said it, so dismissive, so uninterested in what I thought, felt like a punch to the gut. I wasn't about to just let it go. "Which club? Who are you going with?" I tried to keep my tone neutral, but I could feel the tension in the air crackling. She turned to me, giving this exaggerated sigh, as if I was the problem. "Why are you so obsessed with knowing everything? I'm just meeting some friends. Relax." That's when it hit me, a sudden, cold realization. She was lying, and she wasn't even trying to hide it well. The casual way she said it, the fake nonchalance, it was like she didn't care if I believed her or not. "I'm asking because it's weird, Sam." I shot back, my voice tightening. "You don't go from being dead tired to, I need a night out in 5 minutes. Who are these friends? Why are you dressed like this?" Her expression changed. She didn't get defensive like I expected. No, she smirked. That smug, irritating look that said, "I don't owe you anything." "Not that it's any of your business," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I need a break from all this." She waved her hand in the air, gesturing at everything, including me. "From you, if we're being honest." I stood there, speechless for a second. That was a direct hit, aimed right at me. I was mad, no, furious. But what got me more was the way she said it, like I was just some annoying obstacle in her way, not her husband. "So, this is how it's gonna be?" I asked, trying to keep my cool, but I could feel my heart racing. "You just decide you need a break? Throw on a dress? And ditch me for the night?" She crossed her arms, as if she'd already won some twisted argument in her head. "You can't stop me. I'm going." Her voice had that sharp edge to it, like she was daring me to do something. I stepped closer, trying to look her in the eye, searching for some trace of the woman I thought I knew. "Samantha," I said slowly, "if you walk out that door right now, don't expect me to be here waiting when you get back." And just like that, she broke. But not in the way you'd think. She didn't apologize, didn't back down. No, she did something worse. She laughed. "You think I care about that? You think I don't know what's really going on here? You're scared. Scared I'm living my life, and you're stuck in yours." That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. "What the hell are you talking about?" But she wasn't listening. She grabbed her keys, tears starting to well up in her eyes, probably more from frustration than anything real. She shoved past me, heels clicking on the floor, and with one last spiteful look, said, "I'm going out, whether you like it or not." And she was gone. Door slammed shut behind her, leaving me standing there, confused and furious. I stood in the hallway for a few minutes, processing the whole exchange. What the hell just happened? Was this just some dramatic outburst? Or was there something more? The moment that door slammed, it felt like the whole house fell silent. My mind was racing, but something inside me told me I couldn't just let it end like that. I grabbed my phone, pacing back and forth, trying to figure out what to do. It wasn't just that she left. It was the way she did it. The coldness, the smirk, the complete disregard for everything we'd built. Something was wrong, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about some night out with friends. This was bigger, darker. I opened her social media, scrolling through old photos, looking for clues, something I might have missed. Every smiling picture, every caption about love and life felt like a cruel joke now. Then it hit me. She had this one friend, Mia. They used to be close, but recently Sam stopped talking about her. I hadn't seen them hang out in months. I texted Mia on a whim. "Hey, is Sam with you tonight?" The response came faster than I expected. "No, I haven't seen her in weeks." Why? That was my first gut punch of the night. She wasn't with her old friends. So where the hell was she? I didn't even respond to Mia. I was already moving, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. The club. She'd mentioned a club, right? It didn't take long before I put the pieces together. There was this one place she'd gone to a few times with her coworkers. Lux, a flashy spot downtown. It was the kind of place she would normally hate. Too loud, too crowded. But for some reason, she'd been mentioning it more and more lately. Something was pulling her there, and I had a feeling it wasn't the music. I grabbed my keys. My head was buzzing with anger, confusion, 1,000 questions I didn't have answers to. As I drove through the city, I kept replaying the moment she left, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Was it something I did? Was I too blind to see the signs? By the time I reached the club, I wasn't thinking straight. I parked on the side of the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Inside, the place was exactly what I imagined. Pulsing lights, people packed together, music so loud you could barely think. I pushed through the crowd, scanning every face, heart hammering. And then I saw her. She was at the bar, leaning in close, too close to some guy. Tall, built, with that kind of look that makes you want to punch him just for existing. They were laughing. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but it didn't matter. Her hand was on his arm, and I felt that same sick feeling from the barbecue crawl up my spine. This wasn't just some night out. I didn't even stop to think. I stormed over, rage burning through every step. When I was just a few feet away, she finally noticed me. Her face went pale for a split second, like she'd been caught red-handed. But then, just as quickly, she recovered, flashing me a smug smile like I was the one who was out of place. "What are you doing here?" she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. "I should be asking you that." I snapped, my voice barely under control. The guy next to her looked between us, clearly sensing the tension but not moving an inch, like he was enjoying this. She took a sip of her drink, completely unfazed. "I told you I'm out. You're acting crazy." I felt my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "Who is he, Sam?" Her smirk grew wider, and she turned to the guy, not even bothering to hide it anymore. Oh, him? Just someone I met. Nothing serious. That was it. That was the moment everything inside me broke. The lies, the dismissiveness, the audacity to do this right in front of me. It all hit at once. Nothing serious? I repeated, my voice shaking. You're really gonna stand here and say that? After everything? She laughed, actually laughed, like I was some fool standing in front of her. Don't be so dramatic. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was treating me like I was nothing, like our entire life together meant nothing. The guy, still standing there with that stupid grin, didn't say a word, just watched it all unfold like it was some show for his entertainment. I took a step closer, locking eyes with her. I'm not leaving here until you tell me the truth. What's going on, Sam? For the first time, I saw her falter. Just for a second, her confident exterior cracked, and she glanced away, avoiding my gaze. But then, just as quickly, she snapped back to her usual self, her voice icy. You really want to know? She hissed. Fine. I'm tired of you, of us, of playing this happy couple crap. I want more than what you can give me. The words hit harder than any punch could have. There it was, the truth, raw and unapologetic. She didn't care. Not about me, not about what we had. She was done, and she didn't even have the decency to pretend otherwise. I stood there, stunned, as she picked up her drink and turned back to the guy, as if I didn't even exist. For a moment, I stood frozen, the noise of the club fading into the background. Her words, I'm tired of us, I want more, kept echoing in my head, over and over. I couldn't process it. How could she just throw everything away like that? How did we go from movie nights and inside jokes to her standing here, bold as ever, with some stranger acting like I didn't exist? But as much as the shock hit me, it was the anger that took over next. My vision went red. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was furious. You want more? I growled, stepping closer to her and the guy, who was still standing there with that smug expression, like he had front row tickets to the most entertaining drama of the night. What the hell does that even mean, Sam? More what? More lies? More nights sneaking around behind my back? More of this. I gestured wildly between her and him, my voice rising above the pounding music. Is this what you think more is? She rolled her eyes, like she was bored of the whole conversation. You really don't get it, do you? You've been stuck in your little world for months now, focused on work, the gym, whatever it is you do. And you expect me to just sit at home waiting for you to pay attention to me? Newsflash. I'm not some puppy you can ignore whenever you feel like it. Ignore you? I snapped, my voice cracking with disbelief. Ignore you? I've done everything to make you happy. I've bent over backwards trying to keep this marriage together. And this is how you repay me? By running off with some random guy at a club. At that, the guy, Mr. Smug, finally decided to speak. Hey man, he said, his voice smooth, condescending, like he was enjoying playing the villain. Maybe you two should take this outside, huh? It's not really anyone else's business. I shot him a look that could have burned a hole through his skull. You should shut your mouth before I decide to make it my business. I spat, stepping closer to him. The guy straightened up, probably thinking I wouldn't actually do anything, but I wasn't thinking straight anymore. I was ready to tear him apart. Samantha, sensing the tension, moved between us, placing a hand on my chest as if to hold me back. Stop it, she hissed, her eyes flashing with annoyance, not concern. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? I couldn't believe the nerve of her. You're the one sneaking around behind my back, and I'm the one embarrassing myself? She dropped her hand and crossed her arms, her whole demeanor cold and dismissive. This isn't about him. This is about us, or rather about you. She leaned in closer, her voice lowering so only I could hear, but the venom in her words was unmistakable. You've been so busy playing the perfect husband, trying to control everything, that you didn't even notice when I stopped caring. I'm done, okay? I'm done pretending this is something it's not. I need more than this life. More than you. Her words sliced through me like a knife. There was no apology, no regret, not even a flicker of guilt in her eyes. Just cold indifference. But then she said something that pushed me over the edge. You think I'm cheating on you? She scoffed, eyes narrowed. Please, I haven't even started. She threw a glance at the guy, and I swear in that moment I saw everything. The nights out, the secrecy, the lies. It all made sense. It wasn't even about him specifically. It was about her thrill, her game. I lost it. Started. I barked, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. You're telling me this isn't even the worst part? What the hell have you been doing behind my back, Sam? Because it sure looks like you've been enjoying your little escapes more than I ever realized. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. I'm saying I'm done explaining myself to you. I'm going to live how I want, whether you like it or not. Before I could respond, before I could process just how far she was willing to push this, she said the line that would haunt me for the rest of the night. If you can't handle that, maybe you should leave. I'm not running back to you anymore. That was it. That was her final shot. All those late nights, all the excuses, all the lies she'd spun. Now she was making it clear. She didn't care if I was there or not. In fact, she was telling me to leave. I looked around, feeling the heat of everyone's eyes on us now. I realized we'd become the show. People were watching, pretending to mind their own business but stealing glances at this ugly scene. And here I was, in the middle of it, my wife standing next to another guy, telling me she was done. I took a step back, needing to breathe, needing space. Everything inside me screamed to fight, to demand answers, to make her admit to everything. But looking at her, seeing the way she looked past me like I was just another obstacle in her night out, I realized something. She wasn't going to admit anything. She wasn't going to apologize. She wasn't going to make this right. There was no fight left here. Without saying another word, I turned and walked away. Every step felt like I was ripping a part of myself out of that room, leaving it behind. But staying would have destroyed what little dignity I had left. I made it to my car, hands shaking, vision blurred with rage and confusion. What the hell just happened? The truth hit me like a freight train as I sat behind the wheel. She didn't just leave the marriage tonight. She torched it, threw gasoline on everything we had, and lit the match herself. And I was the one standing in the ashes. I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel, trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking uncontrollably, and my chest felt tight, like I was suffocating. Everything that just happened, the lies, the arrogance, her cold indifference, swirled in my head like a hurricane. I couldn't make sense of it. How did we get here? How did she go from being the woman I loved to someone who could stand there in front of everyone and tell me she didn't care anymore? My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, I thought it might be her, maybe to explain, to apologize, to do something human. But it wasn't. It was a text from Jason, my best friend. Jason, hey man, where'd you go? You good? Jason had no idea what had just gone down. No idea that the entire foundation of my life had crumbled in the span of a few hours. I ignored the message and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. How could I explain this? How could I tell anyone that the woman I'd built my life around had just blown it to pieces without even blinking? I sat there, staring at the windshield, barely able to process what had just happened. The world outside felt distant, like I was watching everything from behind a thick sheet of glass. People passed by, laughing, drunk couples stumbling out of the club, and there I was, feeling like I was about to collapse under the weight of it all. And then, as if the universe hadn't kicked me hard enough, another thought crept in. What if this wasn't the first time? The nights she came home late, the times she said she was working late, or just out with the girls. Were those lies too? How long had she been pulling this stunt behind my back? Months? A year? The thought made my stomach turn. I needed answers. Not that she'd willingly give them to me, but I wasn't going to let this go. There was no way I'd sit in the dark, left to guess how long she'd been stringing me along. I wasn't about to let her control the narrative. Not anymore. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Jason. It was her. Samantha, you really stormed out of there like a kid throwing a tantrum. Hope you got it all out of your system. That message hit me harder than anything she'd said in the club. It wasn't just cruel. It was like she was mocking me, treating me like some naive idiot who couldn't handle the truth. And what hurt the most wasn't even the content of the message. It was the casualness, like this was just some small argument between us, not the total breakdown of our marriage. She didn't care. My blood boiled. I wanted to fire back, to scream at her, to tell her she was the one who had thrown everything away. But deep down, I knew that's what she wanted. A reaction. Something she could turn around and use to make me the villain in this story. Instead, I did something different. I dialed her number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as I was about to hang up, she answered. Wow, finally decided to grow up? She said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Samantha, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't care what games you're playing tonight, but you're going to tell me the truth. How long has this been going on? She sighed like I was some inconvenience. Oh, this again? I told you it's not what you think. But if you need a number to sleep at night, fine. A few months. Okay? Happy now. Her nonchalance was staggering. She was admitting to months of lies, of sneaking around, and she said it like she was telling me she forgot to pick up milk from the store. Months. That's how long she'd been betraying me. Playing the role of a loving wife by day, sneaking off with whoever she pleased at night. My vision blurred with anger. How could you do this? I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. How could you look me in the eye every day, knowing what you were doing? How could you just throw everything away like it meant nothing? Her response? A laugh. Not a nervous laugh. Not a guilty laugh. A full-on, cold, heartless laugh. Throw what away? She asked, her tone sharp. This was nothing. Our marriage? It's been nothing for a long time, and you were too busy playing the good husband to even notice. So don't come at me like you're some victim. You're just mad because I'm not playing your little perfect wife role anymore. Every word hit like a hammer. She didn't even see it as betrayal. She saw it as liberation. From me. From the life we had. From everything I thought we stood for. I wanted to scream at her, to call her every name in the book, to destroy her like she was destroying me. But I couldn't. She wasn't worth it. Not anymore. Instead, I hung up. I couldn't listen to another word. I tossed my phone across the car, where it landed with a dull thud against the door. My hands were still shaking, but now, the anger was burning hotter than ever. Not just at her, but at myself, for not seeing this sooner, for letting her walk all over me for so long, for giving her the power to tear my world apart. I sat there in the car, staring at the empty street in front of me, my mind spiraling. What now? Divorce? Was that where this was headed? Could I even go back home, knowing she'd probably be there, waiting with that smug look on her face, daring me to react? But as much as I wanted to walk away, to burn the bridge and never look back, there was a part of me, some stupid, desperate part, that needed more, needed to know why. Not her excuses, not her deflections, but the real, ugly truth. I started the car and drove. Not home, not anywhere in particular, just drove. I didn't know what I was searching for, but I knew I wasn't going to find it sitting in a dark parking lot, stewing in my own anger. The fallout had just begun, and I had a feeling this was only the start of the chaos. I drove for what felt like hours, but time had lost all meaning. Every streetlight that passed blurred into the next, my thoughts spinning like tires on ice, slipping and going nowhere. Couldn't go home. The idea of walking back into that house, with her potentially waiting there, as if nothing had happened. I couldn't stomach it. Not yet. Not after everything I'd just heard. The phone sat in the passenger seat, glaring at me like some vengeful spirit. Part of me wanted to chuck it out the window, as if somehow that would erase everything. But I knew there was no escaping this. No matter how far I drove, no matter how hard I tried to outrun the situation, it was there, waiting for me to face it. Eventually, I ended up at an empty parking lot by the river, a place I used to go when I needed to think. I killed the engine and sat in the stillness, watching the moonlight shimmer across the water. It was eerie, how calm everything was outside while my entire world was in chaos. That's when my phone lit up again. I hesitated before looking at the screen, half expecting another condescending message from her. But it wasn't Sam this time. Jason. Bro, you've been gone for hours. Are you okay? Call me. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a mix of emotions. Jason had been my best friend for years. He'd always been there for me. He knew something was wrong, but he had no clue just how deep the wound ran. I debated telling him, but what was I supposed to say? Hey man, turns out my wife has been cheating on me for months, and I just found out in the middle of a nightclub while she laughed in my face about it. I wasn't ready for that conversation. Instead, I leaned back in my seat and let the memories play on repeat. Months. That's how long she'd been sneaking around, treating me like some blind fool while she did whatever she wanted. And what was worse, she didn't even try to hide it tonight. No remorse, no shame, just smug indifference. I thought back to all the times I trusted her without question. The late-night work meetings, the spontaneous nights out, the way she suddenly became so protective of her phone. I used to think I was paranoid. Hell, I blamed myself at times, thinking maybe I wasn't being supportive enough, maybe I was overthinking it. Turns out I wasn't thinking enough. The memory of that night at the club, her with that guy, her taunting smirk, the way she spoke to me like I was beneath her, it wouldn't leave me alone. She hadn't just cheated on me, she destroyed me. And the worst part was, she didn't seem to care. I replayed the phone call over and over in my head, hearing her voice echo with those words. This has been nothing for a long time. It wasn't the cheating that hurt the most. It was realizing that she had checked out of our marriage a long time ago, and I was the last to know. I'd been living in a lie, trying to fix something that was already broken, without even knowing it. My chest tightened, and I felt a wave of nausea hit. I opened the car door and stumbled out, taking deep breaths of the cold night air. It felt like everything was crashing down on me all at once. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that I was standing alone, picking up the pieces of a life I didn't recognize anymore. I walked to the edge of the river, staring out at the water, trying to steady myself. What now? What the hell was I supposed to do? Divorce seemed inevitable, but the thought of going through that, of tearing apart our entire lives, splitting assets, dealing with lawyers, having to explain it all to friends and family was suffocating. But what was the alternative? Stay with her? Pretend like this was some rough patch we could work through? I could never look at her the same way again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with that guy, laughing, completely unfazed by the destruction she was causing. There was no coming back from that. There was no fixing this. My phone buzzed again, and this time I knew I had to answer. I pulled it out, and sure enough, it was Jason calling. I let it ring for a second before swiping to answer. "Hey," I said, my voice rough, trying to keep it together. "Dude, what's going on? You've been MIA for hours. Are you okay?" Jason's voice was filled with concern, the kind only a best friend could have. I hesitated, the weight of the truth pressing down on me, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. It was either spill everything now or risk losing my mind alone. "Sam's been cheating on me," I said, the words feeling foreign as they left my mouth. Saying it out loud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. For months, and I found out tonight, at a club, with the guy. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Jason didn't say anything for a long moment, probably trying to process what I just told him. Then quietly, "Jesus, man, I don't even know what to say." "Yeah," I muttered, staring at the dark water. "Me neither. Where are you right now? You want me to come get you? We can figure this out, man." "I'm by the river," I said. "Just needed some air." Jason's voice softened. "Listen, whatever you need, I'm here. We'll figure it out. She's not worth it, man. You don't deserve this." I knew he meant well, but the truth was, nothing anyone said could change the fact that my life had just imploded. "We'll figure it out? How do you figure something like this out?" "I'll be fine," I lied. "I just need time to think." "Take all the time you need," Jason said, though I could tell he didn't want to hang up. "But don't do this alone, okay? Call me if you need anything. I mean it." We hung up, and I stood there in the quiet, staring at the rippling water under the moonlight. The sound of the river was almost hypnotic, calming in a way I hadn't expected. But even in that peace, my mind wouldn't stop. Images of Sam, her smile, her laugh, her betrayal, kept flashing through my head. I'd given her everything, my trust, my loyalty, my heart. And in return, she'd given me nothing but lies. Months of them. The cold realization settled in. There was no going back. Not this time. This was the end that I stood by the river for what felt like hours. The cold night air biting at my skin, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing, heart pounding in a relentless rhythm that wouldn't let up. Every decision I'd ever made about my life, about our life, felt like a joke now. The trust, the loyalty, the love I thought we had, all of it was unraveling in front of me like some twisted movie, and I couldn't hit pause. I kept running my hand through my hair, pacing back and forth, every fiber of my being torn between anger and despair. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eye every day, knowing what she was doing behind my back? I started to picture it. Their texts, their meetings, all those little moments where she'd chosen him over me. It wasn't just the act itself. It was the layers of deceit, the planning, the lying, the disrespect. Every time she kissed me goodnight or said, "I love you," it was all part of the same web of lies. I didn't know who she was anymore. Maybe I never did. That thought hit harder than anything else. Maybe this was who she really was all along, cold, selfish, capable of betrayal without a second thought. It was like I'd spent years loving a ghost, someone who never truly existed. The Sam I knew wasn't real, and the truth was that broke me. I walked back to the car and got in, slamming the door behind me. The silence of the interior was almost suffocating, but I needed to make a decision. I couldn't stay frozen in this moment forever, no matter how much it hurt. This was my life, and it was falling apart in real time. If I didn't act now, I'd lose whatever shred of control I had left. I had to do something. Sitting there in the driver's seat, staring at the empty street ahead, I made the call. I wasn't going to confront her again. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me suffer, of letting her twist the knife any further. I was done being a part of whatever sick game she was playing. I took a deep breath and dialed my lawyer. It wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Deep down, I knew this was the only way out. Divorce. The word felt heavy, final, but also right. There was no coming back from this, and trying to salvage it would only make things worse. She had already made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. The phone rang a few times before my lawyer, David, answered, groggy. I'd forgotten it was late, but I didn't care. My world had been torn apart, and I needed action. David, it's me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to talk to you about divorce. Tonight. There was a pause on the other end, like he was trying to gauge if I was serious. Okay. Let's meet tomorrow morning. You sure you want to do this right now? Yeah, I'm sure, I said, more confidently than I felt. I've never been more sure. All right, David said, sounding more awake now. We'll get started first thing tomorrow. I'll walk you through everything. I'm sorry, man. I hung up, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. Divorce was just a word, but now it was real. It was my reality. My marriage, this thing I thought was unbreakable, was officially over, and there was no going back. I sat there for a while, gripping the steering wheel, letting that decision sink in. The anger still burned in my chest, but beneath it, there was a deep, crushing sadness. I didn't want it to end like this. No one gets married thinking they'll end up here. But this wasn't about what I wanted anymore. This was about survival, about pulling myself out of the wreckage before it destroyed me completely. After a while, I drove home, the streets nearly empty, bathed in the pale glow of streetlights. The drive felt surreal, like I was floating through a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. When I pulled into the driveway, the house felt alien, like it wasn't mine anymore. She was probably inside, maybe asleep, or worse, waiting for me with some twisted justification for her actions. I wasn't ready for that conversation. Not yet. Instead, I walked in quietly, making sure not to disturb anything. The house was dark, and for a moment, I thought maybe she'd gone back to the club. But then I saw her. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a glass of wine in her hand, phone on the table next to her. She didn't even look surprised to see me. She just stared at me with that same smug expression, like she was waiting for me to crumble. "Back so soon?" she said, her voice dripping with mock concern. "I figured you'd be out all night sulking." I didn't respond. Couldn't. The hatred I felt for her in that moment was overwhelming. I could see she wanted to start something to get under my skin, but I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I just looked at her, dead in the eyes, and said the only thing I had left to say. "I talked to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow." For the first time that night, I saw something shift in her expression. It wasn't fear, not exactly, but there was a flicker of something, surprise, maybe? Whatever it was gone just as quickly as it appeared. She took a slow sip of her wine, her eyes never leaving mine. "Finally grew a spine, huh?" she said, a cold smile creeping across her face. "Well, I guess it's about time." I didn't reply. There was no point. This wasn't about her anymore. This was about me, taking back control of my life, of my future. I turned and walked upstairs, not bothering to look back. She wasn't worth it. Not anymore. When I reached the bedroom, I grabbed a suitcase and started packing. I wasn't going to sleep in the same house as her. Not tonight, not ever again. The weight of everything was still there, pressing down on me, but at least now I had a way forward. As I zipped up the suitcase, I heard her footsteps coming up the stairs. She stopped at the doorway, leaning against the frame, watching me. "Running away already?" she said, her voice taunting. How predictable. I didn't stop packing. "You'll hear from my lawyer tomorrow," I said, keeping my back to her. "We're done, Sam." She stood there for a moment, as if considering some final jab, some last cruel remark to twist the knife. But then she just shrugged and turned away, heading back downstairs. When I finally walked out of that house, suitcase in hand, I didn't look back. I drove to a hotel, my mind still swirling with everything that had happened, but with one thought cutting through the noise. I was free. The hotel room felt like a liminal space, somewhere between the wreckage of my old life and whatever lay ahead. The quiet hum of the air conditioner was the only sound as I stood by the window, staring out at the dark parking lot. My suitcase lay open on the bed behind me, a stark reminder that this was real. I had left. I had made the choice. The decision was final. But despite the small sense of relief, I also felt untethered. I was free, but from what? I dropped into the chair by the window, letting my head fall into my hands. Free from Sam, sure, but free for what? For the first time in years, I didn't have a plan. There was no one to talk things through with, no future I'd mapped out. Everything had been tied to her. The house, the life we'd built, the future we were supposed to have. Now all of it was slipping away like sand through my fingers. My phone buzzed again, pulling me back to reality. It was another message from Jason. "Jason, call me, man. I don't care how late it is. Just call." I stared at the screen, debating. I knew I should talk to him, but I wasn't sure if I was ready. How do you even begin to explain something like this? How do you say, "Hey, turns out my wife has been screwing around behind my back for months, and now everything I thought I knew is a lie"? But Jason was my best friend. If anyone could help me sort through the mess in my head, it was him. I dialed his number and put the phone to my ear, feeling a strange sense of dread as it rang. He picked up on the second ring, his voice filled with concern. "Finally, what's going on, man? You just disappeared." "I left her," I said, my voice sounding hollow even to myself. "I'm at a hotel." Jason let out a low whistle. "Damn, so it's really over, huh?" "Yeah," I muttered. "It's over. She's been cheating, Jason, for months, maybe longer. I found out tonight. I stopped, my throat tightening. Saying it out loud didn't make it easier. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear Jason trying to process what I'd just said. "Jesus, man, I had no idea. I'm so sorry." "Yeah," I said, feeling the weight of it all hit me again. "Me neither. Not until tonight." "How'd you find out?" Jason asked, his voice careful, like he didn't want to pry too much but needed to understand. I closed my eyes, remembering the club, the laughter, her cold, mocking smile. "I followed her to a club. She said she was going out with friends, but she wasn't. She was with some guy, and she didn't even try to hide it. She didn't care. It was like she wanted me to see." Jason cursed under his breath. "That's messed up, man. I don't even know what to say. Are you okay? I mean, are you holding up?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Honestly, I don't know. I've spent the last few hours just trying to wrap my head around it. I don't think it's even hit me fully yet." "You need anything?" Jason asked. "I can come over. We can talk in person. You shouldn't be alone right now." "Maybe tomorrow," I said, though part of me didn't want to face anyone yet. I need to process this. Everything's happening so fast. One minute I'm thinking we're just having another fight, and the next, I'm filing for divorce. Jason was quiet for a moment, then said, "I get it, but listen, you made the right call. I know it feels like the ground just got ripped out from under you, but it'll get better. You don't deserve to be treated like that. She didn't respect you, man. She doesn't deserve you." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. He was right, but the words felt empty. It didn't matter if I was better off without her. Right now, all I could feel was the loss. "You're right," I said, though it didn't feel like it. "I just wish it didn't have to be like this." "I know, man. I know." Jason's voice softened. "Look, take it one step at a time. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. Just breathe. We'll figure this out together." We talked for a little while longer before I finally hung up. Talking to Jason had helped, but it didn't change the gnawing emptiness inside. I sat there in the dark for a long time, staring out the window, wondering how everything had spiraled so far out of control. How had I not seen this coming? How had I let things get so bad without realizing it? But no amount of replaying the past would change anything. The truth was, it didn't matter how we got here. What mattered was that Sam had made her choice, and now I had to live with mine. I stood up, walking over to the suitcase, and unzipped it. I hadn't packed much, just a few clothes, my laptop, some essentials. It felt weird, being in a hotel like this, with no plan for tomorrow, no real idea of what my life was going to look like now. And then, as I was pulling out my phone charger, I noticed something in the front pocket of my suitcase. My wedding ring. I hadn't even realized I'd taken it off. I held it in my hand, feeling its weight, remembering the day I'd slipped it on her finger. The vows we'd made, the promises we thought we'd keep forever. How stupid that seemed now. I stared at it for a long time, a wave of emotion building in my chest. It was just a piece of metal, but it represented everything I'd lost tonight. Everything I thought was real. And now it was just a reminder of a life that no longer existed. Without thinking, I walked back to the window and opened it. The cold night air rushed in, biting at my skin, but I didn't care. I looked down at the ring one last time, my heart heavy. And then, with a sudden burst of anger, I flung it into the darkness. It disappeared into the night, swallowed by the void, just like my marriage. I slammed the window shut and collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of everything finally sinking in. This was it. There was no going back. The weight of the bed felt heavier than it should have. The cheap hotel sheets scratched at my skin, but I barely noticed. My mind was far from the room, somewhere between the past and the dark void of the future. I kept replaying that last moment, flinging my wedding ring out into the night, into nothingness. It felt like the final severing of a bond that had already been frayed beyond repair. I rolled over and stared at the clock. 3:42 a.m. Sleep wasn't coming tonight. My body was exhausted, but my mind wouldn't stop running. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, Sam. Her cold, unbothered expression at the club. The way she laughed in my face. The way she laughed at the end of us. I tried to force myself to think of something else, anything else, but every thought led back to her. I hated her for what she did, but what was worse was that she didn't seem to care. No apologies, no remorse. It was as if all those years meant nothing. The vacations, the lazy Sundays, the whispered, "I love you," in the dark. Nothing. I sat up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. The quiet hum of the hotel room felt suffocating now. I needed air, needed to move, needed to feel like I was still alive and not just trapped in this emotional purgatory. Grabbing my jacket, I left the room and headed outside. The cold air hit me like a slap to the face, but it was better than feeling numb. The parking lot was empty, save for a few cars scattered under dim streetlights. Everything was still except for me. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going, but I didn't care. I just needed to move, needed to outrun the thoughts chasing me. As I walked, my mind kept racing through every memory of our marriage, searching for answers. Was this always going to happen? Were there signs in the beginning I should have seen? Was there some point where I could have stopped it, fixed it, changed the course of everything? But those thoughts were useless. It didn't matter now. I couldn't undo what she'd done. I couldn't change the fact that she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And I couldn't change the fact that, in some twisted part of me, I still loved her. Or at least loved the version of her I thought was real. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled it out and saw a message from Mia, one of Sam's old friends, the one I texted earlier in the night when I was still in denial, still trying to make sense of everything. Mia, "Hey, I don't know if I should say this, but I thought you should know. I heard some stuff about Sam a while back, but I didn't think it was my place to get involved. I'm sorry. I had no idea it was this bad." I stopped walking, staring at the screen. My heart raced. Mia knew something. She knew something and didn't tell me. I typed back quickly, my fingers shaking from the cold, or maybe from anger. "What did you know? How long have you known?" The reply came almost instantly. "Mia, I didn't know for sure. There were rumors at work. People saw her with someone at lunch a lot. Some guy. They thought it was just flirting at first, But then it got more obvious. I didn't know if I should say anything. I didn't want to accuse her of something if it wasn't true. Lunches. So this wasn't just nights out. She had been doing this during the day too, under the guise of work. I felt sick. I kept walking, my mind reeling, typing out a response without even thinking. Me, why didn't you tell me? Another quick reply. Mia, I don't know, man. I thought it wasn't my business. I'm sorry. I should have said something. I just didn't want to be the one to break it to you if I wasn't sure. I stopped, my breath hanging in the cold air. It wasn't Mia's fault. Not really. But knowing that people around us, people close to us, had seen the cracks and didn't say anything made the betrayal even worse. How many others knew? How many people were in on the secret, watching me live my life, completely oblivious? My stomach turned again, and I felt a wave of nausea rise. I leaned against a lamppost, closing my eyes, trying to get a grip, but nothing felt solid anymore. Not my marriage, not my friends, not even my own understanding of what the last few years had meant. I needed to do something. I needed to take control of this situation, somehow. Filing for divorce was the first step, but it didn't feel like enough. I needed to confront Sam one last time. Not for her, but for me. I needed to hear it from her mouth. Needed her to admit everything. I needed the truth, not the smug lies she'd fed me. Without thinking, I turned and started walking back toward the hotel. My steps were faster now, fueled by anger and adrenaline. My phone was still in my hand, and before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed her number. It rang twice before she picked up. Really? She said, her voice flat, tired. What now? I gritted my teeth. I want the truth, Sam. There was a long pause, followed by a sigh. We've been over this already. No, we haven't, I snapped. You haven't told me anything. I want to know everything. How long? Who? Why? Everything. She was quiet for a moment. Then, with an icy tone, she said, Fine. You want the truth? It's been going on for a while. I don't even remember when it started. I don't keep track. He was just something else. Something you weren't. My heart pounded in my chest. Something I wasn't? What the hell does that mean? It means, she said, her voice cutting, that I wanted more. More fun, more excitement. You got boring. The life we had, it wasn't enough for me. I stood there, stunned, my mind racing. Boring. She was willing to throw everything away because she was bored? You could have talked to me, I said, my voice breaking. You could have told me you weren't happy. And what would that have changed? She snapped. You don't get it, do you? I was already gone. I didn't want to fix it. I wanted out. And this? She paused, her voice softening with mock pity. This was just the easiest way to get there. Her words hit me like a freight train. She never intended to fix us. She didn't want me, didn't want our life together. She had already decided that long before I knew anything was wrong. For a long time, neither of us said anything. The silence hung heavy in the air between us. A silence that said everything. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, I finally said, my voice hollow. You'll get the papers soon. Good, she said without hesitation. That's what I wanted. And with that, she hung up. The line went dead, and I stood there in the empty parking lot, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling like I had just been punched in the gut all over again. This was really it. There were no more lies left to uncover. No more false hopes of reconciliation. The truth was out, ugly and raw, and now all that was left was to pick up the shattered pieces of what used to be my life. I walked back into the hotel, my body numb. The divorce would be the final step, the official end. But emotionally, we had already ended. And now, all that was left was the cold, empty space where my marriage had once been.